It's time to sit back, relax, and listen to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life will inspire, motivate, and empower you. Live your best life now. Listen, learn, think, and decide. Change your attitude, change your life. And now, here's your host, Joan Herman.
Welcome to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. You're listening to us in your neighborhood, from coast to coast, and around the world. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Joan Herman, author, speaker, and your host. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life brings you interviews with some of the most inspirational and influential people in the world. It's our goal to educate and empower you so you can live your best life now. Thank you for taking time for yourself, and thank you for letting us be a part of your life. We have another great show for you today. Joining me is author Mary Higgins Clark, who is here to talk about her life, her career, and her new book, Death Wears a Beauty Mask. Mary is a #1 New York Times bestselling author whose books have sold more than 100 million copies in the United States alone. Welcome, Mary. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's lovely to be with you, Joan. Thank you.
Mary, this year marks the 40th anniversary of the publication of your book, Where Are the Children? And when you began writing, you were a young widow with children, and you really achieved all of this against the odds. How did you begin your career, and how were you able to overcome what was going on in your life at that time?
Really, from the time I was 6 years old, I was a writer. And if that sounds funny, it was because I was writing skits for my brothers to perform in. I was writing a poem a day, and I just was a writer. In high school, the math and science teacher couldn't stand me because I was always writing something in class, a poem or something else. And when I went back to Villa Maria Academy, when I was 15, #1 bestsellers under my belt, she was 90 years old and sitting in a wheelchair, and she never got one of us. And she looked at me with those clear gray eyes and said, "Miss Higgins, you were a dreadful math student." And I curtsied to her, as we did in those days, and said, "God bless your memory, Reverend Mother." But she was right on target because, and I'm not proud of myself that I didn't sink into the math classes at least, but I absolutely loved writing so much. That was my career because I was always writing in high school. And then it was right after I got married. I said I was a Pan-Am hostess, 49 and early 50. And then I said, I have got to learn how to be a writer. It was just, a writer who would sell. And I went to a short story class in NYU, and I learned everything I needed to know about how to write in that class. And the very first story I wrote for it, the professor said, "Mary has written a book, a short story that I promise her will sell." Well, it did. 6 years and 40 rejection slips later. Mm-hmm. I was always writing. I was getting rejection slip after rejection slip, and I had 10 or 11 stories in the mail by the time that first one sold. But every time I got a rejection slip, I'd say, "I'm going to show you, baby." It inflamed me. "I am going to show you, baby."
And the reason I asked that question to begin with is because we have so many people that follow this show, and they're going through difficult life challenges, and they let that stop them from achieving what it is that they have in their heart, the way you had being a writer in your heart. So how were you able to move past those challenges and maintain that path to success?
Well, because my life, my professional life, was to be a writer. Mm-hmm. And after that professor told me, Mother of God, that's about 65 years ago, that story was so good, I was determined, and I just sent them out, and I was so dumb in those days. I would write to the editor of Red Book magazine, say, "I have a story, circa so many words, about," and which I thought might be just right for your wonderful magazine to which I have a subscription, as though the fact that I would have a subscription would matter. But then I started getting letters, not right for us, but try us again. And I said, I am knocking on those doors on Madison Avenue, and I am going to have them open them for me. And one editor wrote back, Mrs. Clark, your stories are light, slight, and trite. And she was with Red Book magazine. So when they came after me looking for stories, I said to my agent, make them pay. You don't let rejection stop you. I mean, too many people say I wrote a book and it got rejected, so I guess I'm not a writer. And I say, no, you're not a writer. And the other people who say, I am going to start writing as soon as, and those are the words of death, because you'll never get around to it. As soon as the children are grown, as soon as I quit my job, as soon as the dog dies, I say there will be a new set of wonderful excuses ready for you when these are worn out. Unless you don't say you're too busy. I got up at 5 a.m. because it was the only time I could work, because I had to get the kids off to school from 5 to 6:45. That was my time to write. Other people may write after everybody goes to bed. You know, they're night owls. But if you're serious about it, you will find the time to do what you want.
Mary, you've had a long and wonderful career, and as a storyteller, I would assume you take in a lot of what goes on around you. So what have you learned about life from the experiences you've had that you'd like to pass on?
Well, of course, I was a young widow with 5 children, and I was worried for them, because a friend of mine whose husband died very young, she had a nervous breakdown. The kids, 3 kids, had a horrible time, and I thought, you really don't have the right to suddenly close life out when you have young children to support. And I just felt that way. I knew what it was to grieve, God knows. My heart was broken. But I did have 5 little children to take care of. So I think sometimes saying, oh, I can't cope with life anymore is very selfish. And I really mean that. When you have to cope, you should cope and do your best, even though you're walking. I wrote in my diary, the first year is walking barefoot through hell. And I do believe that. But on the other hand, you have to walk barefoot through hell sometimes in your life.
Mary, you've written so many books and you've had such great success. From where do you get your inspiration?
Sometimes I see something that I think this would make a good story. You know, news articles that make the DNA of the story. And when I was never about that person or that, but the circumstance may be something that would be good to write about. I went to a trial once where the daughter knew that her son, who had mental problems, that he had killed the mother because her 3 winter coats were in the closet. And she and the stepfather had supposedly left for the weekend. And the son had been smart enough to take her pills out, but he hadn't been smart enough to take one of her 3 winter coats out. And it was a snowstorm. So she knew right away that something had happened. And I used that in a book where someone is found murdered, and the girl who owns the show, owns a fashion store, takes a look at the body and said she would not put that 3-piece suit on alone, because I told her the one that goes with it doesn't match. And so she never wore it. Therefore, something is wrong. And I used that in the book. So just a little case the case I saw becomes translated in a book.
Mary, I know for myself that sometimes my mind just never stops. I'm always thinking of something else I should be doing, or, the ideas keep coming. Are you ever able to turn it off, or does it always keep coming to you? I mean, you're such a creative storyteller. Are you ever able to quiet your mind?
Well, Not really, because I have a contract for one book a year. This year I'm doing 2 books. And as I say, when people say, what happens when you have a writer's block, I say I whisper 2 words to myself and the clouds part. And those 2 words are royalty checks. So a little greed goes along with it.
Mary, after all these years, are you ever tired of the business? Are you ready to stop?
No, because what would I do? If I put a plant in the ground, it dies. If I put a biscuit in the oven, it burns, even though I certainly raised and fed 5 kids. But I have nothing else that I really want to do, and now I have time for, because my time is enjoyable in writing, even though there are times when I think I will never finish this book. In fact, the new book that's out, Death Wears a Beauty Mask, it's a novella with other stories. I started it in 1970, and I put it aside for 40 years because I couldn't figure out how to end it. And then my son found it in a box of old stories, and he said, this is really good. You should finish it. And I took last summer to finish it. And I really like it. I love having it set in 1974 because everything was different then. You came in from Europe on the Pan American Clipper, and I had been a Pan American hostess, so it was nice to do it for them. There were no cell phones, which of course means if someone is missing, they go right to her cell phone to see where she is. So you don't have all those possibilities near to you. And I enjoyed writing a book within that framework.
Mary, when you began your career, what was it like for a woman back then?
Well, the magazines were a very good start because there were many women's magazines. So I would go down from the Saturday Evening Post. And incidentally, I was in one of the 10 best stories of 1960 with the Saturday Evening Post, and that was considered the magazine to be in. I mean, I nearly fainted when I got the call, and it was $1,500, and that was a fortune. I called my mother, and she said, "Oh dear, put it in the bank." I said, "Mother, this is my first big success." And there was a pause, and she said, "But Mary, you've used your idea." As though they'd won to a lifetime, even though she was the one always rooting for my success. So that was our joke. It was I've used my one idea, and now it's been published.
The book is Death Wears a Beauty Mask by Mary Higgins Clark. If you'd like to learn more about Mary and her books, you can visit her website, maryhigginsclark.com. Mary, in our final moments, before we run out of time, what is one of your fondest memories from your career?
Oh, I think the first time you go on the bestseller list and see that you're on the bestseller list of the Times. And they hadn't told me I was going to be on it. And the very night or the next day that I found, I was in a restaurant and I was having a dinner with a friend, and there was a palm reader there, and she came over, for $5. And you know what she said to me? "I don't believe what I'm seeing. I do not believe what I am seeing. You are going to be known all over the world. You are going to make a great deal of money. You will live to be very old, and you will die abroad." And I thought, what's she smoking? And then the next day I was on the Times bestseller list. So 3 things have happened. I have made a lot of money. I am known all over the world. I am very old. So I think I won't travel abroad.
I was going to tell you, stay in New Jersey.
Or at least if I want to take a cruise, go down the Mississippi.
Mary, it has been such a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you. As I told you, I am a huge fan, and you have brought so much joy to so many people, and it has been a real honor to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joan.
We'll be right back. Hi, Hi, this is Joan Herman, host of Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Did you know that Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life has a free monthly digital magazine that can be read online or emailed to your inbox? Every month, nationally recognized leaders in their field provide information to educate, inspire, and motivate you. We believe in a holistic approach to life, incorporating mind, body, and spirit. Check out a copy of Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life 24/7. Visit cyacyl.com and be sure to tell your friends. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you found the show informative. At Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life, we believe that knowledge is power. Take what you've learned, apply it, and live your best life now. Remember that the information provided are the opinions of our guests and should never replace the advice of a professional who knows your personal situation. If you'd like more information, visit our website, cyacyl.com. That stands for Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. While on the site, listen to past shows on demand, read the digital magazine, and be sure to follow the show on Facebook and Twitter. Until next time, this is Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in.